Hi, and welcome to Video Games Revisited. Today, we're going to be playing the 1982 port of the classic Namco arcade game, Pac-Man. Now, Pac-Man is a title I'm sure all gamers are familiar with, and for very good reason. It was a huge hit right from the word go, and as a result, the rights to the home port were fiercely contested. Atari eventually won out and released a port for their popular Atari 2600 console, and with 7 million copies sold, it is the best-selling Atari 2600 title. However, with 12 million copies initially produced, and the game being returned en masse by dissatisfied customers, it's one of the few games that will forever be tied to the 1983 video game crash. The gameplay is essentially the same. You control Pac-Man and move him around a maze, eating everything that's put in front of you and avoiding the ghosts wherever possible. And once this maze is cleared of everything edible, you move on to the next level and continue in this fashion. However, to look at the game, it's hardly recognisable as a Pac-Man title at all. The Pac dots are so severely stretched they're referred to as video wafers in the manual, and the fruit that appears for bonus points in the middle of the maze has been replaced with a big square and referred to as vitamins instead. The maze is a squidged, bastardized version of the original, and only one ghost can be displayed on screen at a time, meaning all 4 of them will strobe incredibly fast, which is incredibly distracting to the player. Even Pac-Man isn't a true representation of his arcade counterpart, as he's unable to turn around corners, and instead has an awkward left and right orientation, even when moving upwards. Even the familiar sounds from the arcade version are absent, and have been replaced with a series of fairly hideous and distracting beeps, which really do nothing for the game. However, it's not all bad. Pac-Man's chomping and death animations are present and fairly faithful to the arcade game, as is the inclusion of key gameplay mechanics like the power pills, which turn the tables on the ghosts so you can eat them. I feel that critics have been overly harsh on this Pac-Man port, as when you look at it, all of the negative points can really be explained away by the limitations of the Atari 2600 hardware. And actually, it's quite impressive that this game could actually be released on this console, when you take into account the limitations on moving sprites and various other bits and pieces. And if taken at face value, the game itself can be quite fun to play, but the visual eccentricities, the lack of all the familiar sounds and iconography that make Pac-Man so classic, are pretty much all missing. And the only real reason that can explain why Atari would have gone for the rights for this game so aggressively when the hardware just simply couldn't hold up is that this game was a purely commercial venture, and I find it hard to believe that the consumers' interests were ever truly at heart. In conclusion, Pac-Man for the Atari 2600 is far from the atrocity you may have been led to believe it is, but when put up for analysis it's impossible to recommend as a port. But that's all there really is to see here. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time. Take care.